Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So to say 2024 has been a rough year for Ubisoft would be an understatement. However, today we have some even more unfortunate developments for them to report on. Now, a lot of people have been focusing on the disastrous launch of Star Wars Outlaws that has left many people disappointed, including the investors, especially after this release coincided with another drop in their stock. Currently, the Ubisoft stock is at an all-time low for the last 10 years. Now, people are coupling the release of Star Wars Outlaws with some demands also being made by very disgruntled investors who are making some very tough demands of Ubisoft in an attempt to turn this thing around, including making the company private, selling the company, and even firing the CEO. And just when you thought things couldn't get worse in the current environment for Ubisoft, another bomb drops right here. So this headline alone is making these investors fall out of their chair. Okay, it says this: Ubisoft mentorship program developed at Ubisoft discriminates against males based on their sex. Yup, this sounds like a program in the gaming industry in the year 2024. So let's look into this program. Develop at Ubisoft. At Ubisoft, we want to build the most creative, diverse, and inclusive teams, and that's exactly what Develop at Ubisoft is all about. Empowering and supporting underrepresented genders. Yes, queen! The program provides mentorship opportunities for women and non-binary individuals. And they're not kidding about that requirement because it is literally in their eligibility criteria. You must identify as a woman or a non-binary individual to even apply. That is crazy. In the year 2024, the progressives are so progressive, they're actually backwards. They're openly sharing a discriminatory hiring practice right here. They're saying, men, you cannot apply for this position that is literally about making video games. That is crazy. It shows you that identity is more important than the actual resume you bring forward. This is ridiculous. And also it opens up Pandora's box, right? It's not so close-ended. It's open-ended. It says, if you identify. So what is stopping a potential candidate here from just identifying as a woman or non-binary? What's stopping a biological man who identifies as a man from simply listing themselves as a woman or non-binary on their application? Like, what is Ubisoft going to do to combat that? Are they just going to say you're a liar? Because that wouldn't look very good for such a diverse program, right? To not believe someone's identity. But it gets worse because people realize this isn't exactly new. This program, by their own admission, is in its fourth year now. Fourth year in a row, Develop at Ubisoft has been doing this mentorship program based on these identity requirements. And digging deeper into the history of Ubisoft, these sorts of programs are not surprising. In fact, the then Vice President of Global Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility at Ubisoft said in an interview back in 2022, when they were asked, what is your key priorities for your team over the next couple of months? Her top priority was their first ever global self-identification program where we invite team members to share additional information voluntarily and confidentially about their identities such as gender identity, race/ethnicity, or disability, because apparently these things are really important towards making a goddamn video game. And also we know if those characteristics are white or male, you're probably not getting a lot of points with the company. But going forward in that same interview, she would brag about how many more female employees they have gotten into the company. In fact, she said that basically half of their executive committee are now women at Ubisoft, which again, there's nothing wrong with hiring a woman or anyone based on their merit of their work, but it seems like at Ubisoft, they are hiring people based on their identity first and then their qualifications next. And it's really showing with the products that have been coming out for Ubisoft. The last couple of years have been a disaster. And also the fact that during this span of years, this program and mentorship has existed, the stock has plummeted steadily. And honestly, the jokes just write themselves at this point. But I'm glad this article also used an image from Skull and Bones. This is a Ubisoft game that I didn't even realize released earlier this year. So this is another 2024 disaster for Ubisoft. And I've been meaning to talk about Skull and Bones. and it's been very relevant recently because a lot of people are sharing some financial estimates and analytics that people have been making regarding Ubisoft and its stock. They're saying that not only are the estimated copies of Star Wars Outlaws and other Ubisoft products going way down, but also the value of the stock is plummeting. And in this, a lot of people expected their estimates to be based on Star Wars Outlaws or, in the future, Assassin's Creed Shadows, but that's not the case. They made these estimates based on two AAA games that have already gone out, Skull and Bones and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Now, Skull and Bones is listed here, and let's talk about Skull and Bones. Okay, this game, an absolute disaster for Ubisoft. So back in 2013, Assassin's Creed Black Flag comes out, right? And a lot of people consider this kind of a middle-of-the-road Assassin's Creed game, but they considered it a above-average pirate-themed game. And a lot of people were asking Ubisoft to make a dedicated pirate-themed game, and that's what they immediately started developing with Skull and Bones. Long story short, this game was in development for nearly 11 years, with hundreds of millions of dollars spent, multiple changes of leadership, multiple changes in the graphics of the game, multiple changes in the direction of the game, changing the game from single player to multiplayer. This game had so many different identities, it pretty much forgot who it was, right? And not only that, it took so long that eventually people just didn't want anything to do with this game. They lost their patience, and at one point, based on the very negative reactions to various previews of this game, there was a theory out there that Ubisoft was going to scrap this entire project. They were going to get rid of Skull and Bones. However, in 2021, some very interesting statements were alleged. It was alleged that they wanted to abandon this project. However, the Singapore government said no. Now, what's going on here? Well, when it comes to Skull and Bones, Ubisoft trusted their Singapore office and developers to make this game. And in that, they made an agreement with the Singapore government, which apparently must have required Ubisoft to complete the game. So when they wanted to jump ship here, it was alleged that the Singapore government came in and said, no, you are going to finish the slop. And that's exactly what they did. This game was an absolute disaster right from the get-go. So bad, not even the game's journalists and reviewers wanted to save this game. Even they gave this game a bad review, and they will do anything for Ubisoft and their products. I mean, they will literally rewrite Japanese history to help support Assassin's Creed Shadows. So the fact that they let Skull and Bones just rot, that tells you how bad the game was. And also, the release was also complicated by a horrible statement made by the Ubisoft CEO right before its release. Only days before the release, he justified the $70 price tag, saying it's a quadruple A game. This would go down as one of the most ill-advised statements ever made in the history of gaming, okay? This would be memed on relentlessly. The first attempt at a quadruple A game. And what happens? It absolutely fails. Only weeks after release, it was reported that less than 1 million players total were playing this game. Included in that number are free trial players. So not even all of that number are paying customers. A lot of them were free trial players. But you know what? For the sake of it, let's just say all of them were paying the $70 for this game. And let's even round it up to $1 million, right? So they sold a million copies at $70 a pop, $70 million. How's that look? Well, not very good, because the alleged budget was $200 million. So even giving them the very generous benefit of the doubt on the sales, they still wouldn't even have reached half of their budget. That is how bad this game failed. And again, compare it to the likely failure of Star Wars Outlaws and the very bad look, the bad forecast for Assassin's Creed Shadows. How is the studio going to be left standing? And it got so bad with the sales that it was reported back in August. There was a brief sale at Best Buy where they were releasing games for $10, and Skull and Bones was one of those games. In the same year it was released, it's in the $10 bargain bin at Best Buy. That is humiliating. In fact, this game would also release on Steam only a few weeks ago. And as you can see, It's not quite Concord levels, but it's not good. This is really, really bad numbers for a quadruple A release. They tried to revive the hype by releasing it here, and it just didn't work. In fact, in my research for this video, I quickly came across this post from Ubisoft support regarding a message from the Skull and Bones team, which personally I thought was going to be announcing the shutdown of the game, but it was reporting on some, some small bugs like ships teleporting across the map and things like that definitely happen in quadruple A releases. And just look at the replies. Look at how people are trashing on this. This is just the first set of comments to show up. This is not curated or anything. Let's just read some of them. I thought it was shutting down. Quadruple A game, man. Come on. I almost thought this game was shutting down. Just DM them, little bro, showing the current player count. You could just DM the player base. The game is dead. Still there last night, if not worse. The three people still playing this game appreciate it. Well, you know what? Skull and Bones was another giant disaster for Ubisoft, but as I've said in previous videos, they still got Assassin's Creed Shadows. I mean, there are other major releases, complete flops, but they still got their moneymaker right here, this absolutely dreadful looking game that has a horrible reputation among gamers right now. This will definitely save them. Yeah, Ubisoft is in big trouble. Like, genuinely big trouble. 2023 was a massive financial step back for Ubisoft. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars as a net loss. And now this year, things are looking far worse. Far worse. How do you have arguably with Star Wars Outlaws and the prices of that game, 2 quadruple A titles and another triple A title that will likely fail? How do you have all of that and still survive as a studio? I don't know. The money just never stops pouring in, I guess, from these investors who are really hoping things will turn around. But I got to tell you, it ain't looking good. I'm not some financial expert here, but this just doesn't look very good for Ubisoft. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.